Hello everyone! Today I'll be talking about how I made my custom HO scale McCloud number 25, but firstly I'd like to thank everyone for their overwhelming support on my first real video, a brief history of McCloud number 25. The model I chose to use as a donor was the Montua 262 Prairie. I got the model new in box for about $50. These models can be found pretty cheap, but upon arrival the model was tested and then disassembled. The first step on this conversion was removing the steam dome and pushing it to the center of the boiler rather than offset towards the cab. Next, I removed the original smoke box door with the molded lamp and started removing the molded details. The original running plate was also cut off along with the lower part of the body. A new running plate was cut and glued to the model, along with a new lower body. The original model had a hydraulic reverser cylinder, but I had decided to use the linkage from that on this new model. I couldn't find a separately fitted one that I liked, so I just decided to recycle the original molded piece. A new smoke box door was sourced. I took a lucky gamble. I didn't know if it was going to fit in the first place, but I was lucky that it did fit with just a very slight lip that I could sand down. A brass lamp was sourced, as well as a scratch-built little lamp platform to glue onto the front of the smoke box door. 25 has these little bracing supports that come down from her boiler down to her pilot. These were represented with just simple strips of wire. Speaking of the pilot was cut down closer to the front wheel just to shorten it a little bit instead of that really long pilot that Montua had. This is also where things started to get a little weird. I used strips of styrene to represent the boiler cladding, but I later replaced these with thinner strips of paper rather than thick styrene. The original model had a scratch-built front, and I later didn't like how thick and chunky this looked, so I later replaced it with separately fitted pieces from a donor model. All of the pipework on the model is custom thin brass wire bent into shape using reference pictures of the real locomotive. A handrail was added to the smoke box door, as well as the cylinder tanks under the cab. Next, I ordered a pair of marker lights for the smoke box door and a Westinghouse pump to be attached on the left side. Her bell is a spare Broadway Limited Imports SB&S 700 bell. Instead of finding a donor tender, I had decided to use the original tender from the Prairie. It was cut down the middle and stitched back together, now being a lot shorter, as well as having the top half removed. A custom-built oil tank, handrails, and ladder were built for the tender. Those who know about how this model works will know that the model also picks up power from the tender as well as the driving wheels to make a complete circuit. I cut the original tender chassis in half and shortened it and stitched it back together under the model. With the wire now breaching the gap, both trucks still pick up power. After cleaning up some bits on the model, it was time for painting. I painted the entire model in this dark gray paint first. Afterwards, I masked off the smoke box and painted the rest of the model in black paint. The gray paint turned out a lot lighter than I was expecting it to, so a black wash and some weathering dulled down the paint to exactly how I wanted it. The white along the running plate was also painted, and the cab doors painted red, and the windows also lined out in red. The tender was also painted black, and the decals were hand-painted using a toothpick, as I couldn't find any transfers that matched the McCloud font. Brass wire was used to represent the fire hoses used to fill the engine's tanks at the fire hydrant, as there is no water tower yet at the Scenic. Instead of hand-applying every single rivet on the tender, I experimented by dipping a toothpick in black paint and dotting it around the tender in the pattern of the rivets. Surprisingly, it gives off the effect quite well on the finished model. Railroad Roman decals were used for the front of the lamp and the side of the sand dome. Sewing thread was attached to the bell and stitched all the way to the cab to represent the bell cord. A brass 5-chime was attached to the model, and thus the model was finished. And with that, here she is. Oiled, cleaned, and serviced, she runs magnificently. Here she is pulling a little consist of coaches that I am currently making for a little project that's coming up. August 2025 would actually see me take the model to meet the real 25 down at the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad. Everyone was so happy to see the model despite the gloomy, miserable weather. It was such a great time to see everyone's faces light up. With that, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.